August 2026 Committee of Precinct Chairs. For those of you who tuned in and expected to see Matt Tavares in this seat, never fear, he's still here. My name is Beth Gregg, and I'm the recently elected chair of the Committee of Precinct Chairs. I'll do a more formal introduction of all of the officers as part of the roles and responsibilities section of the agenda, but for now, I will call the roll to make sure that we have a quorum. Precinct 1. Precinct 2.
Matt Tavares, present.
Precinct 3. Precinct 4.
Charlie Vautrain, present.
Precinct 5.
Precinct 5, Mike Leary.
Precinct 6.
Precinct 6, Roberta Capella.
Precinct 7, Beth Gregg, present. Precinct 8.
George McKay, Precinct 8.
Precinct 9.
Brian Harrington, Precinct 9.
Precinct 10.
Precinct 10, Alan Costello.
Precinct 11. Precinct 12.
Precinct 12, Pat Adelman.
Precinct 13.
Precinct 13, Jennifer Harris.
Precinct 14.
Precinct 14, Jeanette Kelly.
Precinct 15.
Precinct 15, Art Disloges.
Precinct 16.
Precinct 16, Pompey Delafield, present.
Precinct 17.
Precinct 17, Joe Hutchinson, present.
And Precinct 18.
Seth Bachman, Precinct 18.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Would you please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to move on to approving minutes from the previous meeting. You should have all received those minutes from June 18th and have had a chance to review them.
I make a motion to approve the
Do I hear a
Minutes.
second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, we're going to call the roll again. This time I'm going to start with Precinct 18.
Yes.
Seth, if you could
Seth
push the green button on your microphone.
Seth Bachman, yes.
Okay. Precinct 17.
Joe Hutchinson. It's going to take him a little while. Yes.
Precinct 16.
Precinct 16, Pompey Delafield, yes.
Precinct 15.
Precinct 15, Art Disloges, yes.
Precinct 14.
Precinct 14, Jeanette Kelly, yes.
Precinct 13.
Precinct 13, Jennifer Harris, abstain. I wasn't here.
Thank you. Precinct 12.
Precinct 12, Pat Adelman, yes.
Precinct 11, not present. Precinct 10.
Precinct 10, yes.
Precinct 9.
Precinct 9, yes.
Precinct 8.
George McKay, abstain.
Precinct 7, yes. Precinct 6.
Precinct 6, yes.
Precinct 5.
Yes.
Precinct 4.
Charlie Vautrain, yes.
Precinct 3, not present. Precinct 2.
Yes.
And Precinct 1, not Oh, Sarah, are you online?
Hi, yes, Sarah Sibley, Precinct 1, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the minutes have been approved. So the floor is now open for public comment. Is there anyone in the room wishing to speak before the committee? You can come to the podium, state your name for the record, and make your comment. If you're online and wish to comment, please raise your hand virtually and you will be recognized. You have 3 minutes to speak. If you need more time, you may ask for it. And you please monitor your time. Mr. Lynch.
Yes, Kevin Lynch,
Precinct 5. I'm here really to go and ask for your guidance. You're the precinct chair people. You are our leaders of town meeting. And I know that you're not unaware that there is now people that are looking to do a yes on charter change. And my thoughts is that they have every right to do so. Of course, they have to gather a number of signatures. But the question I need some help with, and you folks, and of course I'll be looking for my chairperson to do the same, is that why have we come to this point? Why is it that the people of Plymouth, and there's a number of them, there's quite a bit, want a charter change? And I know that some of them are talking about actually a full change from town meeting to perhaps something else. So my thought would be that if possible, you folks could, do a little bit of self-examination, introspection, and says, what is it that we're not really meeting people's expectations? Where are those areas that we need to shore up and to strengthen? How is it that the people can feel a little bit more confident about us as town meeting members versus wanting to, lack of better words, the old expression is changing horses in midstream? So you folks are in the driver's seat because you are the precinct chairs. And here is the last proposed new charter from the last time that came about. And it would behoove us to look at it and see what they recommended, why they recommended it, because they did a long, exhaustive look at a change in government. And they decided to keep town meeting, and one of the biggest things that we have got to go and do a gut check is, why is it we can't meet more often?
Mr. Lynch, your time is up.
Well, I'll tell you, that was very substantial, 3 minutes, and I would just ask for 1 more minute just to sum it up.
All right, 1 more minute.
Again, I'll be calling the various commissioners from the last Charter Commission and saying, what were your main points that you recommended? Very difficult to get that information here, but I do know they recommended at least town meeting 3 times a year. I don't think that that's too much. And that's one of the big things that these people are saying. Slim down the government. Meet more often. Are you willing to do that as leaders, and are you willing to recommend that to fellow town meeting members? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment, either online or in the room? All right. Okay, seeing and hearing none, I have a couple of housekeeping announcements to make before we move into the agenda proper. One of the housekeeping notes is that it would be really helpful especially up here on the dais, when we're speaking, if we could speak into the microphones, because it's difficult to hear in this room without that. So just make sure you speak into your mic. The other housekeeping note is that we're going to have a slight modification of the COPC meeting going forward. So if you'll remember, those of you who were on this committee last cycle, we began the meetings at 6 rather than at 7 because there's so many articles to get through and there is so much discussion around them. So we are going to be starting meetings going forward. We're going to be starting them at 6. If you'll look at the agenda, at the bottom of your agendas, you'll see the dates and times that have been set for those meetings. Yes, Pat.
Your Usually, we agreed to meet at 7 by consensus because there are many people who can't make it by 6. So I was just wondering who made that decision. Was it you alone?
No, it was not me alone, but what I would suggest is that if you have a motion, we can vote on your motion to change the meeting time, then we'll have discussion, and then we can vote on your motion.
Okay, I motion that we keep the meeting time at 7 p.m.
Do I hear a second? Did you second, Alan?
I'll second
Just for
for
discussion,
I'll
I'd like to second it.
I'll second for discussion.
But I'd like discussion, yes.
Okay, all right, so discussion. Alan?
Just for clarification, are you talking a 6 o'clock start during town meeting season when we discuss articles, or are you talking a wholesale change to 6 o'clock for the whole year?
Beginning on September 17th, then October 5th, and October 15th, beginning at 6.
So that would be in town meeting season?
Exactly.
Like what we did before.
And do the same thing, I'm assuming, in the spring?
Yes,
And then it would revert back to 7 o'clock?
yes,
Oh,
So like the November meeting would be at 7?
yes.
Yeah, I can live with that. That worked,
Okay,
I think that worked well
I
last time.
withdraw my motion then.
I
Okay.
think that clarification, I think some people may need, that's all.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So you withdraw your motion?
I do.
All right, so the announcement holds. The next meeting will be Thursday, September 17th, and it will begin at 6. So please adjust your calendars accordingly. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move into sort of the meat of tonight's agenda. We have a sort of a double-pronged agenda. One of them is the next item that's coming up is about the Symes House and an update on that and then future plans for the Symes House. And then the second part of the agenda is going to do with sort of roles and responsibilities just to bring people up to speed who have not been members of the COPC before. So without further ado, I'd like to ask, is it going to be Lizzie or, oh no, I'm sorry, Derek. So what we're going to do this evening is to review the process that the town went through to purchase or to sell the Symes House in Manomet. We have invited Derek Brindisi. Deb, are you going to speak? Okay. Okay. So Derek will present the sort of the timeline of what happened during the sale of the Symes House. And then, because I thought it was an important thing to know about who's going to be the stewards of the Symes House in Manomet, we have invited Lizzie Schuler, who's the president of Manomet, Inc., and Jonathan White, who's the vice president of operations for Manomet, Inc. What I'd like to do is go through both presentations. So if you have any questions, please save those questions for the end of the second presentation, and then we'll have discussion at that point. So Derek, it's all yours.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Derek Brindisi, Town Manager. And as you pointed out, we have our Chair of our Select Board, Deb Iaquinto, here as well to answer any questions at the end. So I'm here to present a timeline on everything that has taken place relative to the Symes House going back to 2007. As you all know, the property has been sold, and there were a number of questions that came out of the sale of that property. And my hope is that tonight's presentation will help clarify some of those questions and concerns. But before I begin, I want to thank Connor Anderson, Jade Annington, and Kristen Ford because they did a lot of work going back into the archives, looking at and trying to identify milestones as it relates to this property. So they were able to put this presentation together. And I think we've captured most everything that took place over the last 20-plus years. So this second slide is just kind of an executive summary of those various milestones, and then I'll get into the details of each one of these milestones throughout the presentation. So on January 16th, 2007, the town took 2 parcels of land through the tax title process, that is through our treasurer collector's office, for lack of payment of taxes. And you'll see on the, I guess I'd say like 3/4 of the property is where the building is situated. That was one parcel, and then there's that upper left-hand corner, which was the second parcel. But both of those parcels combined, if you were to look at the property today, looks like one super parcel. But it was actually 2 different parcels that the town had taken through tax title back in 2007. And so, as you know, once we go through the tax title process, we oftentimes circulate to various boards and committees in our departments, what do we want to do with tax title property? And you'll see historically, a lot of these tax title properties oftentimes go to the Conservation Commission, and we put conservation restrictions on them. But in this case, there was a discussion, and there was a decision made that this property should be under the care and custody of the Select Board. So that is this Article 17 in the Fall Town Meeting of 2010, where town meeting voted to transfer the care and custody to the Board of Selectmen. And I'm going to read a couple sections here because it's really important and it'll help clarify some questions. For the purpose of sale to the Board of Selectmen for purposes of conveyance, and then to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey said parcel of land and building. So again, there was a question that came up, how come this last sale, didn't go in front of town meeting? And the reason being is because of this 2010 article that gave the Board of Selectmen the authority to convey this parcel of land. And then in 2011, there was $1.5 million of CPC funds that were appropriated. And you can see beneath here the various buckets of revenues and how they were appropriated between historic revenues, open space, and affordable housing. So that was the first tranche of money that went into the renovation and rehabilitation of this property. And so then, less than a year later, the Select Board then transferred the 2 parcels of land to this nonprofit organization called the Symes House Foundation, Inc., for $1. So again, pursuant to Article 17 of 2010, that gave the Select Board the authority to convey this property to the Symes House Foundation, Inc. And then in 13, pursuant to CPA law, a historic preservation restriction was recorded because CPC had appropriated a sum of money for the historic preservation of that building. And something transpired between the time that the Symes House Foundation took over the property to June 19th of 2015, where these 2 parcels of land were conveyed back to the Select Board on June 19th, 2015. Again, pursuant to the October 25th, 2010 Fall Annual Town Meeting. Now the Select Board takes it back from the foundation for probably various reasons. So that was in June 19th, 2015. A few months later, at the Fall Annual Town Meeting, October 17th, 2015, as many of you remember, there was $2.5 million was appropriated for the rehabilitation and renovation of the Symes House. So 1.5 and 2.5 was appropriated, and you can see the buckets of money for historic preservation, and they borrowed $1.6 million as well. And so then in 2017, after the renovations were complete, so for those of you, I had joined the town ranks in November of 2015 and served as the assistant town manager during the renovation of this. So I oftentimes, with Pam Hagler, who's the procurement officer, we would attend meetings with the OPM and the architect down at the property during the renovation and rehabilitation period. And then once the property was completed, the Select Board entered into a lease agreement with another nonprofit called Manamet Village Common, Inc. And so you'll see right here that there was The historic preservation on 2013 was recorded. There was an affordable housing restriction that was recorded in 2020. However, one restriction that was not recorded was the open space restriction. So that's really important to know. So this was missed. There should have been an open space restriction recorded on the property. Now, if that open space restriction was recorded, the only way the town could have sold that property is we would have had to go through the Chapter 97 process. We'd have to get legislative approval to lift that open space restriction for sale. But because that open space restriction was never recorded, it allowed this select board to go ahead and proceed with the sale of the property. This open space restriction was part of the purchase and sale agreement. So the new owners of this building, they must record a restriction on the property. And in this situation, the town will hold the restriction on behalf of Minimint, Inc. So then in 2022, Manamint Village Common, Inc. Was asking the select board for a lease extension. At that time, the select board did not approve the lease extension, and they took the building back under the care and custody of the town. And so this begs the question, so now that we have this building back, what are we going to do with it? And so the select board that summer appointed what is known as the Symes House Task Force. It was a seven-member committee that was charged with exploring the future use of this building. So this is a really important slide, because one of the questions that came up is how come we didn't know that the town was pursuing some type of land transfer? During the summer of 2022 and into the fall, the task force held dozens of public meetings. They had 2 open houses. So at the time, they were working with the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Foundation on hosting these open houses. And they had 2. They had one where they invited all nonprofits in the area to come tour the building and asked those nonprofits, if you were to lease this property, what could you do with it? And then they held a second open house where they invited a lot of for-profit businesses and organizations to tour the building and ask the same question. What do you think if you leased the property or purchased the property, what could you do with this building? In addition to that, there were discussions on maybe we could use it for a municipal use as well. So the task force issued a community-wide survey. And they had, I want to say they had almost 1,000 survey respondents asking questions like, what do you think the use of the building could be? Do you think a nonprofit should use it? So on and so forth. Do you think it should be used as a community center for Manamint? And so that survey was completed. Financial analysis was also completed as well during that period of time. So there were many public discussions back in 2022 over the future use of the Symes House. And so upon the completion of their work, Robert Zuccaroli, who I think chaired that task force, conducted a presentation in this room to the select board based upon their findings. And in the end, the task force recommended to the select board that they issue an RFP to lease the property and to enter into a triple net lease. So the select board took the recommendation of the task force. They issued an RFP on April 6, 2023. That was then extended for a couple more weeks to May 12, 2023. And unfortunately, with all the work of the task force and all the work of trying to engage nonprofits and for-profits, no proposals were received. So we spent the better part of 2 years engaging organizations that we believed had similar missions to the expected outcomes of the article that required historic preservation, affordable housing, and open space preservation. So engage a number of nonprofits during that 2-year process. And then when we thought that we had at least a couple nonprofits that were interested in it, we went back to the Select Board in August 19, 2025, in executive session, and explained the previous number of years, and that we were recommending to put the building back out for a second RFP, except instead of leasing the property, this time to sell the property. So the board took the vote on this day, on August 19, 2025, and then on September 18th, the town issued this second RFP to sell the property. And then those proposals are due on October 20th, 2025. So I want to stop here for a moment because there were multiple public meetings for the task force. There was a public presentation by the task force at a select board meeting. There were 2 RFPs that were issued. These are public RFPs. Anyone in this community can respond to those RFPs as long as they meet the criteria as outlined in the RFP. We had one response, and that was Manamet Inc., also known as the Manamet Bird Observatory. They were the only submission. So then after lengthy negotiations around a number of different issues, the Select Board approved the PNS on May 12th, 2026. The property closed on June 30th, 2026, and it's now in the care and custody of Manamet Inc. And, I know, again, I think it was for $40,000 was the sale price, which, comparatively speaking, is a small amount of money compared to the millions of dollars that we use to restore the building. However, when we look at what the town has done traditionally with the use of CPC dollars, the end result of the sale of this building is no different than how the town has appropriated CPC dollars in the past. So I'll give you a few examples. The town appropriated $3.2 million to the Pilgrim Hall Museum for a roof. $3.2 million for a nonprofit organization in this community to repair their roof. The town provided $3 million to the Homeless Coalition for the construction of a family homeless shelter. Again, another nonprofit organization. The town funded almost $2 million into the Spire Center, which is being managed and operated by a nonprofit. So the end result of the sale of this property is not all that much different, if any different at all, as to the millions of dollars that the Community Preservation Committee has invested in nonprofit organizations over the last 26 years. So we have a great nonprofit who's already in the neighborhood, who has a track record of doing great things for our community, who is now going to have the care and custody, and they will have to adhere to all the restrictions in the intent of the original 2 articles that we use for CPC dollars. So, I'm happy to answer any questions at the end per the chair. If you'd like, I can turn it over to Lizzie.
Thank you, Derek. Lizzie is online, so is it Lizzie? Can I call you Lizzie?
You absolutely can call me Lizzie.
Great. How do you pronounce your last name, your surname?
Schuler, you were right on.
Schuler,
No,
great.
yes.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. And do you all have slides?
We do.
There?
Yep.
Okay. And are you able to see I don't see them.
We're working on it.
Okay, awesome. I'll just wait a moment for. Yeah, and I'll just.
I'm sorry.
Sort of mention to advance the slide when oh, a rhino. That was my former job. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. That's
Thanks,
perfect.
Lizzie. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. And Jonathan, as you mentioned, is online as well, and he really took the lead for us in negotiating all this. And Derek, I appreciate all of your work on this, and we're thrilled to be here. So I'm the president of Manamet Conservation Sciences, we are today, and I'm here we really wanted to talk with you a little bit about our commitment to the people of Plymouth, and also a little bit about the trajectory that I've been leading in the last 6 years since I arrived in April of 2020. So you can go ahead to the next slide. So today we're Manomet Conservation Sciences, as I mentioned. Recording stopped. We're legally Manomet Inc., but we've changed our name to be more straightforward in the community and in the world to actually the type of work that we actually do. And many of us, as you mentioned, know us as the Manomet Bird Observatory, which was founded in 1969. And our portfolio of work has grown from the banding lab, and all of our work is grounded in science. Recording in progress. Today, we're very focused on three main areas. One is education and community engagement in Massachusetts. The second is hemispheric research and conservation on long-distance migratory birds. And the third is in science and conservation in the Gulf of Maine, which extends from Canada to Cape Cod. And a bit about the property. So we have this is someone from the banding lab there, and this is a historic picture of when I heard Brian Harrington is in the room, so probably the days when Brian was at the organization, and may even recognize the person in that photograph. But we have the longest continuously operating banding lab in the country, and it's just a quarter mile from the Symes House. And we've conducted 57 years of bird banding on the property in the fall and the spring, where we band hundreds of birds in each season, and we've been cataloging and using the data for research, documenting shifts in population trends and timing of migration. There have been over 20 peer-reviewed articles published on the data that we've been able to collect from the property. And next slide, please. So our property is accessed on Manomet Point Road, which hopefully you all have seen. It's an absolutely beautiful piece of property, and we've been undergoing quite a restoration of cranberry bogs that have been on the property, and we have 40 acres overlooking Cape Cod Bay, and it's one of the most biologically diverse properties in New England. There, in fact, have been more varieties of birds cataloged on our property than on any other location in New England, behind just Plum Island in Massachusetts. And in the past 6 years since I've arrived, we've really transformed the property from a largely secretive research site to an open community resource. And our property is open from dusk to dawn, 365 days a year. Next slide, please. In 2023, we designed and dedicated an interpretive trail, which is open to the public, to Manomet's founder, Betty Anderson. And the trail is has 7 or 8 different interpretive large signs, and it's about 3/4 of a mile meandering through the meadows of the property. So next slide, please. Since 2024, we've exponentially grown our formal experiential science education, where we see approximately 2,500 students annually from all over southern Massachusetts. We've structured the education programming to align with science curriculum, and our unique offering is outdoor learning, giving kids from all over the region the opportunity to perform observation and research in nature. Next slide, please. Since 2021, we've had a very robust partnership with the Wildlands Trust in the Brockton Public School systems, where we've built outdoor classrooms in all of the primary schools and working with teachers on curriculum for outdoor learning. And this collaboration has grown to middle schools and to after-school programming as well. Next slide, please. We've also grown our adult and family learning events and conduct roughly 50 events annually. This is typically included bird-related activities such as First Friday bird walks, bird-a-thon, Massachusetts Young Birders Club. Yet the majority of the events were more community and family focused, such as family yoga, painting nights, author speeches, bird box building activities, wood carving, nature at night, luminaries, et cetera. So we're really excited about the opportunity to continue to build out our community offerings. Next slide, please. So just shifting to the other work that we're doing across the hemisphere and also New England, we have a highly dispersed staff located in all of the geographies where we're focused. And our staff has grown in the past 6 years from a little over 30 to 65 people. And we work with more than 360 partners across the Western Hemisphere that include federal, state, independent foundations, businesses, local organizations, and landowners. We have people in 10 states and in 10 countries, and are focused on restoring migratory birds and on understanding the ecological changes in the Gulf of Maine due to warming ocean. Next slide, please. So we're very focused on recovering shorebird species, and one of our focal species, you know, we could do a very deep dive for 2 hours just on this alone, but just to give you a flavor, one of our focal species is the Hudsonian whimbrel. This bird you're seeing here on the right side is actually has a satellite tag on it. So we do a lot of science research to understand where the whimbrel are going, when they're going there, what they're eating, how long they're staying, and so on, so we can prioritize conservation efforts. The whimbrel has experienced an 80% decline since the population since 1970, and they spend 2 months of their year in the Arctic, and the majority of their time in the north coast of South America. So we're really ramping up our work you see on the right side of South America, the northern South America. We're ramping up a very large 4-year program there to focus on where this bird is spending more than 5 months a year. So next slide, please. And finally, we have a growing body of work from Canada and Massachusetts, working with communities to understand the shifting dynamics of nearshore ecosystems in the Gulf of Maine. And this water body is warming faster than any other place on Earth. And we're working on really understanding what the communities are able to understand about those ecological changes. So we're looking at mudflats and eelgrass and clams and green crabs and so on. People who have relied on diverse shellfish harvest no longer can, and we're working to help them understand what kinds of species will flourish in this new reality. So finally, I want to say that we're thrilled to have the opportunity to steward the Symes House, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have, but I want to assure you that we'll do what we can to use the resource for the best of the community in the greater Plymouth area. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Lizzie. Appreciate it. I think what we'll do now is just open up discussion to the committee, and what I would like to do is start with any questions or comments or concerns. Actually, let's focus it a little bit on lessons learned. Let's talk first with Derek about any kinds of lessons that the town has learned from the process that it went through for the Symes House. Anything that you could say off the top of your head that you might do differently, or you would recommend the town would do differently? Because I know you weren't here through the entire process.
Well, I mean, if you go back 20-plus years, if you read some of the meeting minutes during those discussions of the select board conveying the property and taking it back, it was typically a 50-50 split on opinions. Some folks thought the town should restore it and manage and control, and others felt like the building was an albatross and it shouldn't. So, yeah, I don't think there's any lessons learned in the sense of like making those decisions. But I do think, moving forward, the community gets upset when they feel like there's private negotiations that had taken place and they're not public discussions. Well, these are real estate transactions, much like the private discussions or executive sessions that take place, during a Chapter 61 potential sale. And so I think it's important for the community to understand that we can't always talk about things publicly because these are real estate transactions, right? And so we can't have these conversations because the opposite party would see that in open session, and that would give them leverage in those negotiations. So, and I know that, over the last number of years, the public mostly gets upset when they see these executive sessions. So, I mean, I guess I would love to say that I would love to be able to offer these intentions publicly and let folks know what we're doing so that they feel like the government is working in their best interest and we're being transparent. But it's just in some situations we just can't do that. And so, but I would love to have done that. But again, it's just challenging to do that during a real estate transaction.
Thank you. Open it up for discussion from the committee. Pat, I see your hand, and then Jennifer.
I just want to know how you justified the $40,000 sale. Certainly, the house is worth more than $40,000. And I recommend Manomet Inc. for all the wonderful things they do. But how is the community going to have access to all the money we put into that house? I wonder even if Manomet Inc. would answer if they thought $40,000 was a just price, especially since they sold ocean property to us for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Thank you.
Yeah, so, like I said in my presentation, that the town has a history of giving millions of dollars to nonprofits. One I failed to mention was the $4 million that CPC gave 80 Makepeace to build 61 affordable housing units. So I don't think that we could ever have a discussion about justifying the sale of this property for $40,000. One, it was the only proposal we received. So if we declined this because it wasn't $500,000, we'll say, then where would we be? And I can also say that the town has been managing that property since 2022 at a cost of at least $60,000 per year. The insurance on that building alone is $40,000. So the way, some of the discussions that we had was that this building is no longer an asset to the town. It's an asset to the community, not to the town, and is becoming a liability. So for those reasons, I think that this was a great decision by the administration, working collectively with the board. We have a nonprofit that we know will do great things with this building, and we're excited to see what comes out of it.
May I respond? All those nonprofits that the CPC gave millions of dollars to was approved by town meeting. This sale was not. Thank you.
Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Jennifer Harris, Precinct 13. I'm not familiar with the legal maneuverings in sales, but just curious if Manomet Inc. chose to sell the Symes property, would the town have the first right of refusal, or is that considered?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a couple of things. If Manomet Inc. chose to sell the property, any potential buyer would still have to adhere to those three restrictions. Those three restrictions are on that building, on that property in perpetuity. So any potential buyer will still have to maintain the 2 affordable housing units on the 3rd floor, the historic restriction of the building itself, and then the open space restriction, which is on the property. So it's going to be a challenge to find another organization, which is why it was a challenge to sell this. If we just sold this property with no restrictions, we would have every developer in town wanting to turn that into some type of condo complex, which is part of the reason why it wasn't sold for $500,000, because there's not a lot of value to the property when you have to maintain these three restrictions. So that's number one. Number two, in the agreement, we drafted a slide back, what I call a slide back provision. So for each year that the property is sold, the town could receive up to 90% of the net proceeds. Meaning that if they sold this building next year, they would have to provide the town, I believe it's 90% of the net proceeds of that sale. In year 2, that would drop to 80%, year 3, 70%, and so on and so on. So by year 10, the town wouldn't have access to any of the net proceeds, but we put that provision in there to try to prevent a quote-unquote flip of the property.
Thank you. Mr. Costello, and then Mr. Desloges.
Yeah, you just touched on it. I remember when we voted that in, the 2 affordable housing units was a selling point for both our affordable housing stock and revenue, quite honestly. So where did those units end up? Are they transferred with the property to the new nonprofit? Are they reaping all of the benefit of the affordable housing that we worked so hard, so hard for?
Yes. So those 2 units on the 3rd floor will stay as affordable one-bedroom units in perpetuity. The new property owner will be responsible for maintaining those as affordable units, and will also be able to generate revenue from the rental of those 2 units.
And I had one follow-up question. I don't think we went that far, but did we ever ultimately put the commercial kitchen in that building?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Desloges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, thank you, Derek, for that explanation, and thank you for taking over the building. It really isn't a question, it's more just a comment. The next day after this was in a newspaper article, we were having, in Precinct 15, we were having a community outreach program. Many of the residents were, I don't know how to use the right word, outraged that the town was, quote, stupid enough to sell a building worth millions for $40,000. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not questioning that decision. That you gave a great explanation. It's just that we as town meeting members in Precinct 15 did not know how to answer their question. We went through a lot of the facts that, as we knew them, but that seemed to not satisfy the voters. And I just wanted to share that with you. That's my only comment.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that goes back to the chair's question, which I didn't really do a good job answering, is like, what are some of the lessons learned? And I think after the decision was made, what we could have done is described the rationale behind that decision, and I think that's what the chair wants to speak to.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you so much for the question. One of the lessons learned does have to do with being able to communicate the rationale and the context for these very difficult changes that we made, and that was a real aha for me. After in the Symes House was the catalyst for that. We came out of executive session. We came down to this very room, and we announced that we had voted it in, but we were not able. We did not have the time to provide that kind of context. So we made the decision that when we were in executive session, making a difficult decision like that, for example, the Landers property was the next one up, that we would be, the night that we took the vote, we would come down and be able to explain the rationale, why we voted for it and why we voted against it. So we did that for the Landers property, and that will be a protocol going forward. And we also started a new communication called the Community Report from the Chair, which is directed to town meeting members to provide that kind of context and rationale. So whenever we do have a difficult decision like that, or a controversial decision, or one that the community doesn't have the full story, so they're not going to understand, we will be in a better position and more able to respond to those in the moment, to the best that we can.
I also hope that this presentation helps a little bit, Art, with your rationale. Matt?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the point. I was kind of thinking about this, and I'm pretty sure you stated it in your presentation, Mr. Rindisi. But the sale of the property was never going to be in town meeting hands for approval, because town meeting allowed and voted to put it into the Board of Selectmen's hands. So I just wanted to make sure that I was correct on that, you know, there was going to be no ability for town meeting to approve a sale of a property, just like we do a lot of other properties, we put it into the Board of Selectmen's hands. Or Select Board's hands, excuse me, I'm using old language.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. Like I mentioned in the slide deck, October 25th, 2010 was the fall town meeting, and under Article 17, and that's why I wanted to pause and read that, so I'll do it again. It says, "And to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey said parcel of land and building thereon, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into all agreements and to execute any and all instruments." So, to your point, the town meeting had authorized the board to convey this property back in 2010.
Thanks, Derek. I'd like to pivot to the presentation by Lizzie and open it up for conversation, for discussion from any questions or comments for Manomet. We'll start with Matt, and then we'll go to Seth.
Sure, I just wanted to, I was going to say welcome you to the neighborhood, but you're already there. So, I also know the great work that you do personally as someone who was a camper there in the 80s and going along the bird runs. But are the affordable housing units currently have tenants, or is the plan there? I just, for both of you, and I don't know if it's a question for Jonathan or for Lizzie, so whoever would like to answer.
Jonathan, do you want to, yes, they do, but Jonathan, you want to take that?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for this opportunity today. To answer your question, yes, both of the affordable housing units have tenants. Those tenants did not change in this transaction. Both tenants have resided there for over 5 years, and we don't plan on changing those tenants at this time. So we've had our initial walkthrough with the tenants and communication, and we'd like to continue that as long as they'd like to live there. So that's our goal.
Thank you. Seth? I'm sorry, Mr. Bachman.
Seth is fine. Seth Bachman, Precinct 18. Thank you for the presentation. Just had a question about what I didn't really hear exactly what your plans were for the Symes house and what it will allow you to do that you're not able to do before buying the property.
Yes. Well, the first thing that we're going to do is put a kitchen in, because we don't, there is no kitchen, and we don't perceive it as highly functional without a kitchen. So that construction, we're just in the process of getting the permits and so on and so forth for that, and going through the historic office and so on to get those requisite approvals. But we do plan to use it once that's functional, which we hope will be toward the end of the fall. Certainly by the winter time, we do plan to use it primarily for programming, inside programming in the winter time, and then outdoor programming in the summertime on that terrific common area. So the events that I spoke to, we probably won't use it too much for education, because our campus is such a great spot there, and it's off the road and so on. Whereas for programming that we have in the wintertime, especially when it's dark, driving on our road is pretty dodgy, and the parking is a ways from our headquarters, so it's going to be really fantastic for that. I would love to also, we have lots of ideas of, I'd love to have a monthly science lecture and so on. So there are lots of things that are in motion that we're dreaming up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Desloges.
Yeah, I commend you for including neighborhood and community programming into what you're going to do, because it's a very dear place for many people in Plymouth. So thank you.
Any further questions? Yes, Pat. Mr.
I just have one quick question. I'm wondering if this nonprofit was involved in any of the open houses, and why they passed on it when it was an option to lease the property or use the property? Why did it fall down to the point where you could buy the property?
I can take that, Lizzie. That we're aware of, Lizzie and I have both been here less than 6 years, so neither one of us were at those open houses or aware of them. It's possible that the organization was part of one of those open houses, but not to our awareness.
Okay, Ms.
All right,
Adelman?
very good, thank you.
So will the community have access to the building through those programs you spoke of?
Absolutely. All of our events are open to the public.
Any further questions? If not, I have one. I live down the street from Manomet Inc. or Manomet Conservation Sciences, so again, welcome to the neighborhood, though you've been there longer than I have. My question has to do sort of as a follow-up to Ms. Adelman's question, which is it, do you think possible in the future that we would be able to use the rent or use the facilities for things like precinct caucuses? Because it's a real hard thing to find a suitable space to meet, like have community meetings.
Absolutely, and one of the things that I would love to do in the coming months is to get input from the community about what they would like to see. We've had some informal input, and we just need to manage sort of access and security and safety and all that kind of jazz if it does become open to events and so on outside of just Manomet functions. But I would love to see that sort of thing available.
Thank you very much. Any further questions from the committee? Right? Hearing and seeing none, we appreciate your taking the time to join us. Thank you, Derek, very much. Thank you, Deb. And when and if you get ready to have community outreach and you need help with that, let me know. And I think we can muster at least 2 or 3 precincts to help out.
Super.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity and for your support.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Take
All
care. Have a
right.
good night.
So we're going to move on in the agenda. The next part of the agenda is around the review and of roles and responsibilities of Committee of Precinct Chair members. I wanted just to take a couple of minutes to introduce myself because I know that I haven't had the chance to speak with everybody here yet. My name is Beth Gregg. I've lived in Manomet with my husband, Mason Young, for about 30 years. I was appointed to town meeting in 2024 after a member from my precinct resigned. I've been on the COPC since last year, and honestly, there is no one more surprised than me to find me in this chair. I've tried to speak with as many of you as possible before the meeting, but I look forward to speaking with those that I haven't yet had a chance to meet. I just wanted to tell you that I see my job as the chair to facilitate our meetings so that they are as productive and collegial as possible. I'll come prepared. I'll make sure all voices are heard, and I'll do my best to keep us on track and on time. I'm not up here alone. I wanted to make sure that you know that we have very capable officers as part of the chair of the Committee of Precinct Chairs. Matt Tavares is the vice chair, and he's been invaluable with his insights. He's given me an excellent model for how to run a meeting. On my left is Pompey Delafield, also known as Lawrence, right? Who is, Lawrence, also known as Pompey, but if you ever go to the Starbucks on Long Pond Road, just ask for the Pompey special and they'll bring it to you. Pompey is our parliamentarian, and he's been very helpful in clarifying our protocols, our procedures, and I just wanted to say that any mistakes that I make in the procedure don't reflect on him. Pat Adelman, to my far right, is our clerk, and she and I have had some very fruitful discussions about the Committee of Precinct Chair and its role in town governance, and I greatly appreciate those conversations. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Kristen Ford, who is the COPC's coordinator. I must say I would be lost without her. Just preparing this agenda has required upwards of 35 emails. I didn't count them all, but I think about 35 emails, numerous texts, and more than a few phone calls, most of them at like 6:30 in the morning. Kristen has guided me through the process, connected me with people I didn't even know existed, and she's patiently listened to my suggestions and questions. I thoroughly appreciate your help, so thank you for that. And before we move on, I wanted to recognize our new COPC members, because there are a few of you. So if this is your first time on this committee, could you please just raise your hand? That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think Sarah Sibley online as well. So 1, 2, 3, 6 or 7 of us, yeah, are brand new to this committee. We welcome you. I would say to you that one of you during our conversation said that joining town meeting and the COPC has been like self-service onboarding. I understand completely. You feel maybe like you've been thrown into the deep end of the pool. And I just wanted you to know that we are here to support you. Look around the room, find somebody who looks like a kindred spirit, ask them questions if you need to, call me if you need to. We do not bite. Most of us do not bite. So please just take advantage of the experience of the other people in the room if you need to. Just as a reminder to all COPC members, new and more senior, there are some expectations I think I've been hearing from people as I've had my conversations with you. First expectation is come prepared. Read the materials sent out before meetings, make notes of any questions that you have. Attend the meetings. If you can't be here in person, we have Zoom. If you cannot make either, please coordinate with your vice chair to ensure that your precinct is represented on the COPC. Ask questions. If you have a question about procedures or you need a question of clarification, ask me and then I'll talk to Pompey, or just talk to Pompey and one of the other chairs seated around this dais. We can help. Engage collegially. Presenters are here to provide us with information that so that we can make informed decisions. They're not here to be interrogated or dragged over the coals. Please, let's strive for civility. And then share what you learn. Help your fellow precinct members understand what you've learned at COPC, because I think that's one of the biggest responsibilities that we all have as chairs of the committee. I've spoken with a couple of people in the last couple of days who've said that the COPC is a unique animal in Massachusetts. To their knowledge, it is the only body of its kind in the Commonwealth, and its original intention was to take the burden off of town staff for having to present at all of the caucuses in preparation for town meeting. That has kind of slid a bit as town representatives show up or town staff show up at caucuses. With 18 caucuses, it becomes really time-consuming and maybe not the most efficient. At the same time, I understand that I, as a chair, do not feel completely confident to be able to provide information to my fellow precinct members because I don't know all of the ins and outs and all of the complexities. So what we're going to do in this next section is to get into some of the resources that we have available online that can help bolster our information sharing. Also, I think first up, we're going to have a presentation from Joe Lally, who is the chair of Advisory and Finance Committee, which I think is informally known as FinCom. Is that correct? Okay, FinCom. Joe's going to talk to us about opportunities for getting involved in the budgeting process, because that has been a hot topic recurring over and over again. So we'll watch the presentation, and then I'm sure Joe will be happy to entertain any questions. Hopefully the sound is better tonight than it was last night.
Yes, it was pretty bad last night, and but they found the broken thing, and it sounds like, from my perspective, they really fixed it, so fingers crossed. Good evening, I'm Joe Lally. I'm a resident of Precinct 4. I came to Plymouth in March of 2019 when I took a job, or bought a house after I'd taken a job at Northeastern University. I retired from Northeastern in August of 25, and still we love it in Plymouth. So thank you for having me tonight, and I'm here, as mentioned, to talk a little bit about the opportunities that we see for involvement with A&F. This is a theme that seems to be emerging. I made a presentation to Precinct 17 earlier this week, and I'm on the docket for next week on Precinct 15, and then who knows where I may go after that. So I want to talk a little bit about how to get involved early on. And I'll focus for the moment on the run-up to spring town meeting, where the annual budget is concerned, but some of these same things apply for fall town meeting as well. And so one of the first things you can do is you can go to the A&F calendar is posted. You can subscribe to the notices. You can come and attend the meetings either in this room, typically is where we meet, or via Zoom, and certainly utilize the public comment phase. And one aspect in the spring in particular is when we're considering the town budget, the operating budget, we have a number of budget subcommittees. I think there's 6 or 7. I'll actually go through them in a minute. And those are typically, these are all public meetings. They're typically, the budget subcommittee meetings are typically Zoom only. We try to make that happen. Sometimes there's an in-person option. They're often during the day because of staff availability. And again, utilize the public comment phase, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So these are just some screenshots. They were in the handout I hope you have, but essentially you go to the town website. In the How Do I, you can click the meeting notification link on the bottom of that page. And you can sign up so you can get the notices regarding the Advisory Finance Committee. That'll take you here. And we're at the top of the list, so you can sign up and essentially get everything the committee gets. That includes agendas, it includes minutes, and as we move along, I'll talk about the budget book and how you can get the same kind of preview, or essentially what we work from in the process. So there we are again. You can get these notices. This is the town election calendar. I'm not going to go through the detail, but it's a cycle. This is in the handout, the PDF that I hope you have all gotten, and I will send you the updated presentation to make sure you have what I'm talking from. I tried to improve it. But here's the typical calendar related to spring town meeting. The warrant goes out right after fall town meeting typically, and then gets closed at the end of October. And usually what happens is that we have a joint meeting with the school committee and the select board, and that's supposed to be the handing over party, if you will, where the select board is going to give us the budget and we go home early. That didn't happen this past January, but we're going to work to get back on that track. And then we start meeting on a weekly basis sometimes twice a week, going through all the articles that are being considered in the warrant for spring town meeting, and if there's a special town meeting, we do that stuff as well. We also, once we have that, we assign our budget subcommittees. So there's 3 people, somebody's appointed a chair, and if we have extra staff, we might bump it up to 4 or 5, but it's pretty tight given what we have to do. And we go through and on Monday, all of the subcommittee reports, the budget subcommittee reports are due to Jeanette White in town administration, and she pulls that all together, and we have a big budget hearing on the 18th. And just to put that in perspective, the budget subcommittees really focus on the operating budget. So you have a town budget, I think this year was around $360-some million. The operating budget is $308,000. In one article, we take care of the $308 million. In one article in town meeting, we take care of the operating budget. So that's a very important part of our spring process and a great time to get involved in your area of interest. And then we we continue our meetings working through all the articles for both special town meeting and spring town meeting. And our deadline typically is that mid-March 13th-ish, right now in the current cycle of spring town meeting, although there's an effort was approved to move that later in the cycle into the spring. So everything will shift a little bit, I would expect. And then the deadline is the books go in the mail the following Friday, and we start scheduling the precinct meetings with each of your precincts to happen on the Wednesday following that Friday when the books go in the mail. So that gives everybody a chance to get it in the mail, go through it, get prepared for the meetings, and we try to send at least two representatives in person to each of the precincts. So there are 18 now, and most of us do 2, some of us do 3, some of us do more, depending upon things that come up. And then in early April, under the current schedule, there's this is last year's schedule. We have a motions meeting that's here. We go through the motions, so to speak. We have another A&F meeting that's usually organized around that we will deal with. And then there's a town meeting preview that's held in this room and also broadcast on Local Scene, where we talk about the articles, just present them. We don't debate them, but it's just to get people familiar and sort of get ourselves comfortable with that. And then there's on the morning of town meeting, invariably there's some last-minute business. And in case you don't know, anything that comes to town meeting either has to have gone through FinCom first, or it has to be voted onto the agenda at town meeting by a 2/3 majority. So that sort of is the express card. So we actually meet at 7:30 in the morning in the arts room over at Plymouth North, and do whatever we need to do. And we arrive fashionably late, at spring town meeting just to catch the end of the program. And then there's town meeting, and then we often we spend the rest of the year doing whatever might need to be done to pay bills or take care of particular actions, or if there's a little cleanup afterwards. And then we go into summer, and usually the first meeting in July is kind of an important one because we reorganize. But more importantly, the 15th is the last day to pay bills, so we usually meet that night before to make sure any unpaid bills can get approved and get paid out of the prior fiscal year, because we're already in the new fiscal year. And then, not long thereafter, we move into the cycle and do it all over again for fall town meeting, although I'm seeing 25 articles right now in the warrant, and we're going to start meeting about that. Actually, we met last night about that. With all the challenges of a difficult audio system in this room, which is gratefully fixed, it appears. And we'll continue to meet and move into that same cycle running up to a fall town meeting. And again, we'll meet at 7:30 at fall town meeting morning. There's a dress rehearsal about 10 days before. And then the cycle repeats itself. So I know I'm going very fast. And if you have some questions at this point, if not, I'll just keep moving along.
We'll wait for the end.
Okay, great. So these are the budget subcommittees that operate in the spring. And as I said before, there are public meetings, typically Zoom. So Budget Subcommittee A is Administration and Inspectional Services. And this subcommittee will go through here. Back in the day, I think, the Administration and Finance Committee used to be accused of the rubber stamp committee, but we've gotten a bit more raucous lately, and we do make changes in what gets approved ultimately out of this process. But it starts at the budget subcommittee levels, or changes to the proposed budget from the select board. And so they'll go through each of these items. This is the subject areas that Subcommittee A does. And we have a lot of good perspective, a broad membership, a good cross-section of the town in these committees, so we try to mix it up, and I've been trying to move people across committees so they learn more about the time. Just because of my background, I always did DPW, but I'm trying not to do that anymore as chair. I wanted to be available to go to different meetings, but also to learn about other parts of town that are not necessarily familiar with me. So it's a great learning experience to learn how the town works. And particularly get into those finance numbers. As I like to say, for these meetings, you all get a budget book that's about this thick when you get the mailing. We start out with one that's about this thick. And we're working hard to make sure that that will be up at the cycle of going through the budget hearings for both spring and fall and town meetings, so you'll be able to download those. It's a lot of paper, but you can also do it that. And again, as I say, as we go through this, don't feel obligated if you do one, you have to do them all. Go to your subject area or go to some place you want to learn about. And so as each of these meetings progress, the typical cycle is, we have introduction, we go through the call to order, take roll call. There's a public comment period of up to 5 minutes at the beginning. And then as we go through article by article, the staff present their budgets. The committee asks their questions, and again, there's a time for public comment and questions of the staff members and or the committee before we usually close that and then take a motion and debate the article and possibly vote on it. Or we do vote on it, not possibly, we do vote on it. Here's Public Safety, Harbor Master, Energy and Environment, the Department of Public Works. You'll notice that there are lots of operating budgets, but there are also revolving funds. Planning, Health and Human Services, and again, all of their revolving funds. Public Schools and their revolving fund. We vote on the entirety of the budget, either up or down. We don't get into line item discussions, although this year we designated one member and the school committee thought it was a great idea too. I think it worked out well, but we had one of our committee members be on the school budget subcommittee, which is a pretty big budget to digest. And that worked out well because that person came back and was able to talk to the committee through the budget process and work through about what were the developments and what we should expect. So I think the process went, well, I'm told the process went a lot better from both sides. So again, there's a lot of work and a lot of budget there to digest, and if that is something of interest, that's a great way to do it. You can also just go to their budget subcommittee meetings too, but this is when we review it with our recommendation to bring to town meeting. And again, what we recommend is what goes to town meeting. An example was Budget Subcommittee A, which had made some recommendations about IT security staff. The Advisory and Finance Committee cut that down to 2 as an increase from what the Select Board recommended. So there's an example of the work we did. What went to town meeting was what the Advisory and Finance Committee recommended. There were motions from the Select Board and also from the citizens to introduce their own motions to essentially restore the cuts, if you will, or take away those positions. And to, I'll say my surprise and delight, it carried. So that was a great work that subcommittee did for something that we felt was important. And we, again, it wasn't unanimous coming out of our committee, but again, it was a representative view of that. They're the enterprise funds. These are operations in the town that are supposed to self-fund each other through revenue operations. So, water and sewer are kind of obvious. Airports, similarly, there's also some other indirect enterprise costs and cable and public access. And if you attend those meetings, you can only imagine some of the challenges with the cable enterprise now that everyone is, a lot of people have cut the cord, so to speak. So that'll get interesting in the next few years. And so I think the other thing now, I just want to, I have a few more slides to take you through, but these are the operating budgets. So this is Article 7 right here. This one slide says it's 308, almost 309 million of the total budget that you and your colleagues vote on at town meeting. So, and I think it's worth, we tried a presentation this past year to try to break that down a little bit to sort of get your arms around it, because it's really easy to get lost in these numbers. And this is that same budget broken into the pieces, and you see there's school services, 45%, and yet it's up or down. We don't get into that. That's the role of the school budget committee. But again, having some involvement with a representative there helps us influence. And then I'll show you in another slide that there's another chunk of, it's not in this particular slide, but what I wanted to do was pull these pieces out, because the pieces that are pulled out, like fixed costs and community debt service for both the school and for the town, the fixed costs, your utility bills, those kinds of things, there's not a whole lot of discussion on that. And my point is that we have options. You can't not pay your electric bill. You're not going to go too far with that. Yes, if you change the makeup of the number of employees in the town, over time, employee expense will go down for cost of benefits and things like that. But they're almost, it's so slow that it happens, I consider those, from a cost accounting perspective, to be pretty much fixed. So at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is $74 million from our perspective in terms of the operating budget. So this is people, supplies, the day-to-day stuff. And looking at this, you look at public safety, there's 58%. We spent 4 hours one night in January going through the budget again with the select board watching the select board go through the budget. And at the end of the day, we actually added to budgets, or they added to budgets, not take away. So the time to understand what's going on in here, I think, is in, certainly they're presenting their budgets this fall to the town managers and the select board. We dive into it at some level of detail in the budget subcommittees, and then the budget subcommittees report back to the Advisory and Finance Committee late in the cycle, getting close to town meeting, and talk about that. So, and again, a lot of this is people expense. These are not very big departments, and when you look at it in the context of that 73% represents 24% of the operating budget, 24% of that 309. So as we're trying to do this, we're trying to do it pictorially, because it's hard to wrap your head around a whole page full of numbers, but rather think about what it is. So it's people, it's general expense, and facilities. There's a lot of things like the energy costs for almost all of the town buildings are in there. So they're not so much heavily people-weighted, but planning development is small, but these are essential services that we need to have a town. So if you look at, again, 80% is personal services, so that's the cost of having people here. It's their vacation, it's their sick time, not their health benefits. All other expenses, actually I take that back, it might include, I took health out in the other group, but this isn't the operating side. So you have all other expenses, the general expenses, that could be copiers expenses, paper, telephone expenses, things like that. Fuel and utilities, that's for the school and for the town buildings, and then departmental equipment. So and the thing about these is most of the non-personnel expenses have been level funded for the last 2 or 3 years. All right, well, that's really a budget cut every year when you consider inflation. And so these are, from my perspective, and I've been on the operations side in my career for about 40 years in facilities at various institutions of higher ed, it's pretty lean. Here's just another thing, the subcommittee F budget for the school that you voted on last spring was about $134 million, but there's another $59 million nominally that's in the general expenses for the town, utilities being one of them. And there, in this year's budget, Article 19, there were requests for about $4.9 million worth of capital improvements for the school that are also carried in the plan. And there's budgeted grants and contracts, and typically what happens with budgeted grants and contracts, you have expenses of $5.7 million, and you have grants that come in at 5.7, but it's a bit of a wash. So these are things that in some ways don't cost the town a whole lot or don't cost the town anything from a funding perspective, but yet improve the quality of education or the quality of life in this town. So, and then we look at, I was very familiar with this when I was in New York State in Tompkins County while I was at Cornell, but there's a lot of unfunded mandates that the state or federal government says you must do for which you get no dollars, or underfunded. So again, this slide is about 9 months old now, or maybe not quite that far, 6 months old. But the estimate on FY25 at the time that was available from the school district was about $41 million of unfunded or underfunded mandates. So it's just helpful to know what some of the drivers are that ultimately have an impact on the tax rate. And that's it, and I'm happy to take questions.
All right, Ms. Andelman,
And I'll do my best to answer them.
and then Mr. Delafield, and then Mr. Desloges.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I really appreciate the FinCon having a very diverse source of experts on your committee. I wonder if you could explain to our committee how those people are appointed and what the qualifications are.
Well, the first qualification is you have to volunteer through the town website. And it is the town moderator that makes appointments to the committee. And I think part of it is interest. I'll just use the word, the town moderator often consults with me and gives me an opportunity to speak to the candidates. And one of the things I try to do, I say this somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but is to talk them out of it or make sure they understand the workload that they're committing to. Because while it says we only meet once a month, you can see from our calendar, particularly in the run-ups to the town meetings, that we're meeting every week and sometimes twice a week, depending upon the workload. In terms of what I'm looking for is diversity of thought, diversity of opinion, someone that we can have healthy, respectful debate and is not afraid to, as I like to say, speak their truth without blame or judgment. So I think those are the things, but it's the town moderator who makes the decision and makes the appointment. So I'm kind of like the manager for the Red Sox. I take whatever catcher they send me. You know?
And I would like to make a comment. I watched your meeting last night, and I really appreciate the candid discussion you had with Adam Blaisdell. And I thought that was so important to get that out in the community so we understand how that food services director did what he did. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. That was one of our intents. And I'm glad you could hear it all through the difficulties we had last night, audio-wise. Thank you.
Mr. Delafield and then Mr. Desloges.
Yeah, basically, mine's more a comment for us and for other precinct members. And that we really have to follow, I understand if I'm correct, we really have to follow you because, I mean by that, pay attention to your meetings because you are the ones who do our work for us. And by the time it gets to us, there's really not a lot of negotiation anymore. And so I just hope, mine's more a plea to every meeting member that they really need to pay attention to your committee and what you do, because that's the time when we have input, and I appreciate that. You put a lot of time in.
Thank you. Anyone who wants to attend the committee meetings virtually or in person, there is opportunity. And again, just because if you have a particular interest, great. And some of the articles we do are things that are, I don't want to be cavalier and say no brainer, but it's clear what needs to be done. You have to, the obligations that the town has, and we're just making sure that those things have been, there's a stewardship role that the committee has, and I think the subcommittee chairs in the Springtown cycle take their job seriously, so I appreciate your comments, and I'll pass it along at our next meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Desloges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. And Precinct 15 looks forward to discussing this with you when you come next week. My question tonight is about your decisioning and the independence of that decision. I'm just going to confirm, I think, that whatever decision you make is totally independent of any influences of the select board, of legal ramifications, or any other party, and that as you vote, it is entirely the vote of the members.
Well, let me start out by saying that what goes forward is the vote of the members. And so, particularly at town meeting, I make a point where we have had I'll use a vote that was not unanimous, to make sure that my job in the presentation is to make sure that we represent both sides of the argument so that people get a sense of that, as well as, and report, just goes beyond reporting the vote. Who voted for it and why, who voted for it, against it and why, so that we're trying to convey a sense of when things went down. We are influenced a lot by what people say at the meeting. We may agree, we may not agree, but it certainly, if people are taking the time to come talk at the meeting, we want to have them feel listened to and heard. That doesn't mean we're going to agree with them, but we certainly are open to input and value the people who take the time to offer a perspective on each and every article. As I said, we want them to come away listened to and heard. Doesn't mean we're going to agree with them. Doesn't mean we'll vote the way they think we should vote. So I don't feel any, people give us lots of input. The presenters give us input too. We may not agree. We're not afraid to ask hard questions, that's for sure. And so I hope I'm answering your question, but I think we operate as an independent body. And again, what ultimately is approved by the Finance Committee is what gets presented to you first at town meeting.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
It does, but I'm just making sure there are no restrictions that you cannot be told by somebody else how to vote.
Well, I'm sure we can be told, but it doesn't mean we have to follow that,
That's
okay?
Okay.
There are lots of people who come and speak and tell us how to vote. That's part of the public comment period. As I said, our job is to listen and consider and then vote what we think is each individual votes. And so one of the things we try to do at the beginning of each article is make sure that each committee member has a chance to speak. And if I feel compelled or I feel an important point hasn't made, I might speak. But on the other hand, I don't have a vote unless it's a tie. So it is what the committee gets to their own consensus on. And I think it's, I have every reason to believe it's an independent process for them.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Great.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much, Mr. Lally. And it looks to me like if I'm interested in getting involved in any of these meetings, I need to pick a subcommittee.
Yes. And
Thank
so
you very much.
That stuff will be up for, we will have, as we do too, the other thing that we do, as I said, is we try to have 2 representatives go to every precinct meeting after the books are published. And again, welcome you for early involvement. The only thing I ask is please do your homework and be prepared for whatever it is you want to do. And
Yeah.
when you're speaking, brevity's levity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yep, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming. All right, at this point in any meeting that I would be running on an informal basis, we would do like a 7th inning stretch. So while Kelly McElrath, the town clerk, sets up, why don't we just take a minute to maybe stand up and jiggle around a little bit? All right, so we have invited the town clerk in to speak with us about resources that are available online. This is a refresher for those of us who've been around for a while, and for those of us who are new to town meeting and/or to the COPC.
So, thank you. I apologize, I'm on this side of the room, but I wanted to use the computer and do it online so you guys could actually see. I'm thinking you can hear me? It's coming across. Okay. So, as you know, we revamped the website 3 or 4 years ago. And if you're not aware of it, when we revamped it, we did submit it to the Mass Municipal Association for website redesign, and we tied for first place in large communities for the design of this website. So that was, I think, 2-3 years ago that we did that. So I always like to bring that up because we're trying to keep it up and going. So that being said, you go to the website, the homepage, plymouth-ma.gov, and I think for these purposes especially, if you just hover over government, and I don't want to do this one by one, but I do want to give you guys an idea on some of the resources on the website. You can go right to town meeting. So town meeting, you can click over here and get town meeting members, which I'll talk about. We updated this to recently reflect that the warrant closed last Friday on the 14th at 12 o'clock, because it was on a Friday. And what we've also put on here is that the preview that the moderator has will be held on October 8th of 2026. So we keep this as up to date with information that about the next coming town meeting. That being said, I know Mr. Lally showed that great calendar that we have for election and town meeting. We don't have that calendar published at this point because, in all honesty, we don't know when town meeting and town election is going to be next year. Because, as you are aware, in April, at the town meeting, you voted a charter change to change the town election, and then a bylaw change to change the town meeting date. So until we know if the charter change is really generating that, we won't know what the dates are. So we'll put something up after the fall town meeting, but we'll have a better idea as we get closer to that time. And this is also where we put the important documents for town meeting. As you can see right here, if you're not even aware of it, the draft of the fall town meeting is already on the system. And the great thing about this, it usually opens up, has a second tab, so you don't lose you can go back to the website, give it a couple seconds to load, and you'll be able to see, I don't know why that's showing up like that. But you'll be able to see all the warrant articles. Now, keep in mind, this is a draft. Nothing is secured on a warrant until the select board actually votes it to be on the warrant. But this is what the A&F will be working off of. So we also have some things on here about submitting articles, and most especially submitting citizens petitions. So a lot of information here. Committee of Precinct Chair. So we recently established Onboard, and that is a program that software program that we've installed into the software itself. So you can click on Committee of Precinct Chairs, and it gives you all of the names of the people on the committee, when their terms are, and when you meet, and how it was established. So a lot of information on this page as well. What I wanted to point out to you is this button right here. If you click on that, it brings you to a website that you can type in your name, type in your email, and type in a message. And that email will go to every single one of you on COPC, as well as Kristen has your staff liaison.
I just, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
Kelly.
please
but
do.
just
I want
wanted-
this to be interactive.
No, I just wanted everyone to realize, you've probably received emails via Onboard, but just make sure your email is accepting them, like they're not going to junk, because it'll come in as onboard. It won't say like when you get an email from your friend, you know, it's Matt Tavares sending, or in my case, one time when I got hacked, you all got a whole bunch of stuff. But it'll say onboard.gov is sending you a message, so.
So I would be more than happy right now to literally send out now you all get to see my typing skills. So that's all you need to do. And if somebody, I think there was a way to attach something, but maybe not. And I can send that message. And so all of you, when you get home, or if you have access right now, you can look at your email, and it should be on, you should get an email that says test from COPC meeting. So those are the emails that are coming from your constituents. So that being said, I'm just going to go back to this page. We also have town meeting members. We have this link here. Now, I know in the past, and I see somebody in the audience, so I owe him an email. I'll remember. In the past, we used to have this as an Excel file, a PDF, and your emails were right on there, and there was some hacking done in the past. So we've taken a conscious effort to hide your email so no one can, quote, hack you. But if you click on, and I'll just pick on Precinct 1 right now. Hi, Sarah. That being said, it has all the members, and it's got, again, dates of when it is. It's got that same button at the top. So if you don't want to email all the COPC members, you can email all Precinct 1, Precinct 17. You just need to go down here and pick whatever precinct you want and scroll. So that is this, it will show up the same way as the test email that you just got. Yes?
You can also individually email people.
Thank you. I was thinking that was working. So, so Beth is Precinct 7, right? So if you click on her name, okay, again, you can then, there's this button that says email member. And so if you click on that, that same form comes up. So if somebody doesn't want to email all 9 members of a particular precinct, they can click on the town meeting member's name and then send it that way. And lastly, I do still have access to that, quote, Excel report. So if you do email me, and hopefully I get in touch with you sooner than the person in the audience that emailed me 2 days ago, I can send you an Excel file with them. And this actually leads me into the next conversation, is what I ask of town meeting members, there's 162 of you, is please blind see, if you're going to be using not the form, please blind CC the members. And the reasoning for that, and we've had discussions about the open meeting law in the past, and if there's a reply to all, it can constitute a violation of the open meeting law. Because if there's some people are saying, well, if there's only 10 people out of 162 people, that's not even anywhere close to quorum. But you know what? Those 10 people could be a quorum of one of the precincts. It could be a quorum of this committee. So a reply to all, where it gives everyone the opportunity to reply to all to everyone, just makes it, you're just opening it up. So if you are going to, and anytime I give it out that spreadsheet, quote, I will say, please blind CC the members, so there's not the opportunity to reply to all. And it saves everybody's email inboxes of a string of emails that you might not be interested in. Ms. Craig actually asked me to mention that if you want more training on the open meeting law, if you haven't had enough of it in the past, is the the Attorney General's office does offer open meeting law seminars that if you reach out to me, I'd be more than happy to send you the link. They schedule different seminars throughout the year or throughout the month. You need to just, it's like a Zoom. You sign up, you get the Zoom link, and you can listen to it and understand what they say about open meeting law. So highly recommend anyone, especially if you're kind of new to the open meeting law or new to a committee, to definitely not only do the open meeting law, but also the conflict of interest training, the state ethics. Make sure that you're familiar, you're required to acknowledge that law every year, as well as do online training every 2 years. And the great thing about this program is it tracks it. We send you an email as a reminder, and then you click and you said, yep, I know about the open meeting law. Yes, I'm aware of the conflict of interest law. You click it, and we get the record of that you've acknowledged it. So, so on board, town meeting, Mr. Lally kind of stole my thunder because I was asked to talk about how to subscribe. So I'm going to go back to the homepage. And again, the lighthouse, stay informed. I remember us picking that icon. So it's right under that lighthouse. You click on it. And any type of the agendas, I would recommend that you do agendas and not calendar events, because if it's calendar events, you're going to be getting them every day, all day long. But if you do agendas for some particular, and you just click this to enlarge the menu, and you can click Committee of Precinct Chair. I can't really read this right now. Committee of Precinct Chair. And if you click, you have to be signed in with your email. But if you click on it, every time I post a meeting, I actually have to click a button that says send notification. And that's how that email is generated to anyone that subscribes. So if you want to know when A&F is meeting and what their agenda looks like, COPC, other precinct, select board, planning board, any of those type of boards that you want to know, you can subscribe to them, and then we will automatically, the system will automatically send you an email, and it's just a link, and you click on the link, and I believe the agenda shows up. So I'm always on the other side of it. So how to describe, how to subscribe, on board. You know you could be getting some emails. The other thing is Local Scene. Got to give them a shout out. They have a YouTube channel called, if you just go YouTube, and it comes, well, it's programmed in here, but you can just search it. And then they have the playlist. So if you want to watch a meeting live, you would click this live button. I could literally click on this right now, and it would show us what's happening right now, but I won't. Okay. Or you could hit. It's someone's phone. Okay. Nope, that's okay. And then you can hit playlist right here. So that being said, you've got the, it's pretty much in alphabetical order. So you got the select board right here. So if you click on this, it will, oh no, I'm sorry. It will give you the full list of all the meetings that you might want to watch or rewatch. If you go, you can find advisory and finance is right beside it. So you can click, again, down here, view full list. So if you can't watch them live when they're meeting and you are bored at work or something, you can literally play it in the background and hear what's happening, and you can understand, and you can hear the discussion. And you can also view past COPC meetings. So is there any other question, or what questions do you have about the website that you haven't been able to ask anybody? I'd be more than happy to try to answer them. Yes,
Pat, if you want to look up a former town meeting article, I always have trouble finding them.
Okay. Great question. So again, if you go under, again, that town meeting page that I stated, You'll see over here, it says Town Meeting Archive. So if you click on Town Meeting Archive, it will bring up all the town meetings going all the way back to 2015. So we've got 11 years of history on here. And what it goes all the way back to the warrant, to the recommendation book, to the budget book if it was a spring meeting, if there was a supplement that came, and then how the motions were voted. So if you don't remember exactly what meeting it was, feel free to send me an email and I can try and help you to do that. There's also another, there's also another way to do it. It's a little bit more complicated, but you know that town report that it's a big, thick report that everybody gets? If you go under the town clerk's website, page, I should say, there's town reports over here, and it will bring up the archives. That's probably too close to me. The archives, and it's searching right now, that you can click, because a lot of the town meetings, we put all the votes of town meeting in the, why is this not working? Oh, because it is. So you can get last year's, like the proceedings of the last 5 years. And when you click on these, it does give you the ability to do a search. So if you think you might know that it was in what year it was, there's definitely the search. But I have a little bit of I can sign into this program and do a little bit of advanced search, so I'd be more than happy to help you on that.
Thank you. Mr. Deslogis, and then Mr. Delafield, and then me.
Yeah, thank you, thanks. Can you again explain to me where I can find all the political committees that have filed and their donation listing from donors?
So that information is under election and voter information. And then over here, we have campaign finance reports. And then depending on what year you're looking at, so if we do 2004, has any elected official knows, not so much town meeting members because you're exempt from campaign finance, but select board and planning board and school committees, they need to file a report 8 days before the election, 30 days after the election, as well as a year-end report. So you will see all those reports for that.
And does that apply to political committees?
Yes, if there is a committee established, I believe it would be on here. So you've got one that says vote yes on Plymouth. So you would have the campaign finance report right there for that.
And where would I find donations?
Well, it was loading. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Delafield.
Yeah, I know the town meeting hasn't been set for next year, but are there some suggested dates so that people can begin to plan around those, and how would we find those?
Yes. So I will go back to, so of course, it's set for the first Saturday in April, which I believe is April 4th this year or April 3rd. I'm not quite, don't quote me on that actual date. I do believe that there's on the draft warrant, there's an article maybe to move it to the last Saturday in April, unless everything passes. So keep in mind, the charter is the one that is going to control all of this, and that has to pass the state legislature. They are no longer in formal sessions. So in order for that to become effective, they have to pass it in informal sessions, and they have until the end of the year. So I have a feeling it will be a discussion that will be discussed at town meeting on what we're going to do next year. April 3rd. I knew it was April. I knew I had my 3 and 4s messed up, so there you go.
All right. Mr. Leary.
Kelly, I'd like, the bylaws you codified for the administrative and stuff, we should show that. I'll tell you, they did an excellent job putting that up there. Can't wait for ours to get done. But she showed me the other day, it is really good. It's
So-
impressive.
Thank you for that shout out. I appreciate that. And I wasn't even something that I had considered discussing today, so that's great. So again, under government, okay, for town meeting members and especially, this is the, if you just hover on this, it gives you the drop down. It's got a lot of the information. Mrs. Deloges, that election and voter information that you're looking for is right there as well. So, but I clicked on, I clicked on the bylaws and charter. So we have right here the town bylaws and accepted state statute. I will, maybe after I do this presentation, I will change this. If you click on this, it actually, remember in the past, it would bring up a PDF document, and you would have to remember what it was, and you'd have to go. Now it brings you up to this, and this is a very easily searchable website. So, for example, I can click on this charter, right? And I can hit download PDF. Maybe. No. I don't want that. Why did it do that? Probably the computer. It's not. Oh, there we go. I clicked it. So if you want the new printed charter that was approved at town meeting in October of '24, here it is. You can just download it as a PDF, and you can review it. That being said, if you wanted to know what the charter says about or anything in the bylaws and what it says about committee of precinct chairs, it's thinking. Thank you, Mr. Larry, for pointing this out. I forgot about this. It will actually give you everything, like your powers. So you can click on that. And it talks about the legislative branch, and it talks about section 2.2-2, which talks about the committee of precinct chairs. And similar to what I did with the whole charter, you can download it. Actually, I take that back. If I just want to know what it says about COPC, I click that box, and I can download it. And then it gives it to me in real writing. So I know that codification was a lot to get through at town meeting, but this is what we now have. We have this website that that was just mostly the charter. Any of the bylaws that you want to talk about, you can also, it will search the charter as well as the code. So it will do administrative bylaws, and you can boards and committees, and it talks about all the different boards, and if you want to do A and F, it gives you all the powers in the bylaws about A and F. So this is many cities and towns in Massachusetts uses this vendor, and I appreciated town meeting voting to approve the funding, and we are waiting to finalize the contract with the vendor, and they're going to do the same thing with our zoning bylaws. It's going to take a couple of years, but we will get there eventually. So, so not only is the charter and the bylaws, but they're very searchable just by clicking on it, and you can go right back to home. Well, yeah. So it's all there. Thank you. Thank you for, Mr. Larry was in the other day, and I showed it to him, and I totally forgot to bring it up, so thank you.
And it is, I'm telling you, it's absolutely impressive because, she went through that part, but the administrative notes, if you go into them and you want to say, okay, noise, you can press noise and it'll come up with everything relevant that you need to know. Dogs comes up with that, you know, the dog regulations. So when you go to that administrative note, it's really impressive. You can get everything. I mean, and it's in a click of your fingers. It is impressive.
Yeah, it's very searchable, so you can just, you know, I just typed in dogs, and here we are with all the dogs, and anytime the word dog shows up.
Junk dealers.
I have a
Bags,
couple of
wands.
things. First of all, it really is impressive. I'm going to have to do a little bit more investigation onto the website. I was wondering if you could show us two last things, please. One of them is the town meeting handbook, because I think that's a very important tool for all of us to have. And then the second one is there, I think you have online the open meeting law training that you gave a few months ago, which is relatively short. People can go through it on their own time, and maybe it's a good thing to remind ourselves what it actually means.
Yep, thank you. I knew there was something else you asked me to look at. So again, I'm under that town meeting link page, and you will see the town meeting handbook. And it is a PDF document that you can, I believe it was, you had a town meeting handbook committee that Kristen came in the very middle of and helped put this all together in the end. So this is a very useful tool, especially if you're a fairly new town meeting member, or if you have a new town meeting member. Definitely make sure that they have know where this is and they can find it. When it comes to the link, there's a couple different ones that Ms. Craig was talking about. I was referring to the state's website. And so attend a training right here. And so the next one, that already passed, and that already passed. So the next one is September 8th. So you can sign up, again, you register, and you go with your email, and it's a webinar, and they have these like listed through the end of the year. And it's, as you can tell, it's an hour and a half, and I wouldn't be surprised that if you sign up and register, if you get the link to the Zoom afterwards. A lot of the state trainings do that. We did have training here in, KP Law came and did a special training for us. I know we were supposed to have it the week of the blizzard, so it got pushed off, I think, a month. That being said, we did record it in the afternoon, in the evening session, but unfortunately, people were asking questions and they weren't on mic, so I'm not sure how great the YouTube is, or the recording of that is, but I do have, Local Scene still hosts it, and I do have a link to it, so if you want that, just send me an email and I'd be happy to send you that link.
All right, thank you very much. We really appreciate your taking the time and spending as much time as you have with us.
My pleasure.
Much
The only other
appreciated.
thing I'll end with is early voting starts for the September primary, starts this Saturday. So we will be here Saturday and Sunday, so if you haven't voted by mail yet, feel free to stop in and visit. And I got to give the mic back.
Thank you. All right, moving on. I promised to keep us on time. We're only 4 minutes late at this point, according to the agenda. So I would like to go to the next to the last agenda item, which is setting future agendas. So this is in replacing new business, what we're going to do, because new business could have been contrary to open meeting laws, because if you have new business and you start discussion during the meeting, then you might be in violation of open meeting laws. So what we're going to do, at least while I'm up here, is we're going to be setting future agendas. So at this point, just asking you what items you might want to put on the agenda for the future, and we'll make note. And if it requires special resources, we'll talk with you and figure out how to get that. make that happen. So are there any items that you would like to put on the agenda for the future COPC meetings? Pat? Sorry.
Go ahead, Pat.
Mr. Costello.
Yeah, what I would suggest with his third of the group here is new or relatively new. COPC has been very successful with a legislative oversight committee that it's taken about 10 years to really get off the ground, but I think in the last 2 years, especially with the help of the administrative assistant, Kristen Ford, we have it in pretty good order at this time. But I think as a future, maybe even several, at least 2 future agenda items, I think this committee should be brought up to speed on what the Legislative Oversight Committee does, and what it has done, and what it hopes to do in the future with the buy-in of all the new members. We have a couple of set dates that we are following, June and November, I believe, where we have presentations in front of this larger committee. The Legislative Oversight Committee, I should have started with this, is a subcommittee of this group. And there are other members, town meeting members, that have joined and have been very helpful. Pat Alderman's been a charter member, Mr. Donato, Tammy Bernardi, Everett Malaguti, and myself. And I think the group's done a good job, but I think it would be interesting to see if there's any interest by any other new members to join the group. And at such time, we could reorganize the subcommittee, change up the leadership. Presently, I'm the chairman of that committee, and I've enjoyed it. But, I've been there a little while now, and maybe there's some people that want to come in and add some new ideas. Maybe we keep it the same, but at least we could talk about it. But I think it's a very instrumental subcommittee of this group. We put together a packet of 175 plus or minus town meeting articles that we've, as a town meeting, approved over the years, and we've sort of followed them along through their process. Some of them have been completed, some of them partially complete, some of them never really got off the ground, but they're being reworked and things of that nature. But at least as a town meeting member, you have, and we didn't touch on it, it's just a moment ago, but it's now on the website. So it's a great tool going into a town meeting. So my hope is, yes, if I could schedule some time as the chair today for future COPC meetings to tweak and to add to and to expand the Legislative Oversight Committee, I think it would be beneficial. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll certainly put that on the agenda. I would like to speak with both you and Kristen. We'll make sure that we're clear about what the presentation will entail and what the how that will take place.
Sure.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Anybody?
Alan, do we have a meeting scheduled? Do we have a meeting scheduled? A legislative oversight meeting?
No, not at this time, but we'll put one together so we can talk about that, so we'll be ready for any questions this committee is going to ask of us. Thank you.
Mr. Harrington?
We have a major construction project coming in close to Plymouth with the Cape Cod bridges, and I would like to see this committee become more informed about that project
Okay.
and what it's going to be doing to traffic patterns in our town.
In particular, anything in particular? Yes?
Well, no, I think it's a whole town issue. We're already having backups at
Okay.
intersections close to downtown. We're having backups down near the canal. And I can't imagine but what it's going to become a nightmare.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Mr. Hutchinson?
Just to follow on to Brian's comment, that bridge work represents a milestone, actually, because the authority of that region is going to change. There are 2 regional planning agencies on our side of the canal and then there's the planning agency on the other side of the canal. Bourne's on both.
Yeah.
What that puts on the table is a set of interests that we have because we,
Mr. Hutchinson, I'm going to stop you
Okay.
because we're beginning to discuss the
Yeah,
discussion, and we...
well, but it's the topic is the regional and town interests in the development of that bridge.
Thank you.
Sorry to be.
No, it's all right. I appreciate your clarification. All right. Any other topics of interest for the agenda? Mr. Delafield?
I just want to stress for people who may not realize, I'm assuming that we could also get in touch with you or Kristen if we find one between now and then.
Sure.
This isn't the only opportunity.
Absolutely. Yep, definitely. All right. I see Ms. Kelly's ready to go. So would we have any other items that we would like to add to the agenda? And if not, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Oops, yes, Mr. Costello.
One sort of just came to me, we talked about it, we touched on it a short time ago, was prior to COVID, this body was very instrumental in presenting articles for town meeting as a group. We used to pick any article that was of interest, town-wide, pertinent article, big-ticket item article, and we would have a night, or even a couple of nights, where we'd go over the articles. So that gave an opportunity for town staff to present to all the precincts at one time. Now, they could go on to the individual precincts, but due to COVID, and that ended up on, was PAC TV at the time, but local scene, as did the town meeting preview. But it might not be a bad idea, based on what you were talking about earlier, to research that and bring it back under our umbrella. Because I think that was originally what it was set up for. This committee was set up to do that. And I think at one time they had 3 separate presentations per town meeting all over town. They had three different venues. That was before my time. But we at least had one here when I was around, when I was a new member, and it was pretty beneficial. Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy to follow up with you about that. Great. All right. Any other items? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Seconded. All right. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here this evening. We are adjourned.